A listomania. Think less but see it grow.
Hello everybody, it's the Law Gnome and welcome to your April 2019 episode of 10 for 12. If you're new to my channel, welcome. It is a pleasure to have you. And for all of you returning, I've got a really great 10 for 12 for you today. So, in a couple of days, we are going to be seeing the closing chapter of the MCU Infinity Saga. Yes, the 22nd film in the MCU is fast approaching, and I think we're all very excited for this gargantuan conclusion to this chapter. But, even though it was last year, I thought that it would be finally time for me to give you guys my top 10 MCU films from the first 10 years, which is the first 20 films. So that means, guys, unfortunately, you will not see Avengers Endgame or Captain Marvel in this, and rightfully so, because we're only going to be focusing on the first 10 years, and it's amazing to believe that 20 films actually were given to us in a 10-year span, and we got some true revolutionary films that changed the movie-going experience forever, as well as finally giving the comic book movie some true tribute, even though there were some that did come before it. But nowadays, the comic book movie is the movie to go see in theaters. It is the movie that makes the money, and there is no reason why they can't be praised. So before we get into that, I want to thank my three collaborators, Zach, Justin, and Ashley, for joining me today. I'm really excited to see what their top 10 MCU films from the first 10 years are, and I've got my list with me, so let's begin. Number 10 is actually Ant-Man. It may not be the most glamorous of all the MCU films, but one of the few things that I have to say that makes this movie so great is how much fun you have when you're watching this movie. There is an excellent cast, including Paul Rudd, Michael Douglas, Evangeline Lilly, and of course the great Michael Pena, and you just have a blast while you're watching this movie. And the best thing about it is, it came out at the perfect moment when we really had gotten some seriously epic films, and we just needed something to let loose, get all the jitters out, and just have a really good time. It is still one that holds up strong to this day. I was a little upset over the fact that Edgar Wright didn't end up directing this film, but it still was one of the better films for me in the MCU. Number 9 is Captain America: The First Avenger. As someone who appreciates comic book characters, Captain America was one of those original Marvel characters that just got lost in the shuffle and became a complete joke. There were many attempts in the past to make Captain America into film, and it failed miserably. So the fact that Captain America, as part of this universe, was finally going to get a movie that was probably going to give him proper respect, they did a great job. It was a great introduction, so much great character development, a stellar cast including, of course, Chris Evans, Haley Atwell, and Hugo Weaving as the Red Skull. It really was the movie that we all wanted for Captain America, and thanks to this, Captain America is now one of the most respected and most loved characters in all of Marvel now. And let me just say, it's about damn time. Number 8 is Guardians of the Galaxy, the very first of the soon-to-be 3 films. Now, the funny thing about Guardians of the Galaxy was I didn't even anticipate these guys even becoming a film. I didn't even know much of what they were about, especially considering the fact that there was a massive legacy. There was an original lineup that goes all the way back to the mid-1960s, so this one was entirely new. A cast that included Zoe Saldana, Chris Pratt, Vin Diesel, Bradley Cooper, and Dave Bautista. I really didn't know what to expect. But because of the fact that they were one of the more least known from the mainstream in terms of Marvel comic characters, this gave James Gunn the ability to really turn it into his own and make it something truly special. It had epic battle sequences, it had hilarious comedy, and probably the highlight of this film is the amazing classic rock soundtrack. That was definitely the highlight of this film, and I have to say, when that movie was over, I was vastly impressed, and that is why it is still one of my favorites to this day. Number 7 is Spider-Man: Homecoming. Well, Spider-Man had gone through a great deal of fun and a great deal of drama, and this being the third reboot after seeing his appearance in Captain America: Civil War, I had a very positive feeling about this incarnation of Spider-Man, and let me tell you, he definitely is the best Spider-Man that we have gotten so far. Granted, I do have a really big soft spot for the first 2 Sam Raimi Spider-Man films starring Tobey Maguire, but getting a 19-year-old actor at the time time in Tom Holland finally was Spider-Man done right. A young kid who had the ability to play Spider-Man for years to come. Throw in an excellent performance from Michael Keaton as the Vulture, and finally throwing Spider-Man into the MCU, we definitely got the true Spider-Man I think we all wanted to see. Additional characters in this film are great, even a couple of nods to additional big-name Spider-Man villains like the Tinkerer and Shocker. That was definitely cool to see, but the best part was it really was a true coming-of-age story, and even though there was a romance in this film, it wasn't really the biggest part of the film. We really got Spider-Man trying to be Spider-Man and evolving as a hero, and that is why I thought I had the best time with the Spider-Man, and I am so excited to see more MCU Spider-Man films in the future. Number 6 is the one that started it all, the very first Iron Man directed by Jon Favreau. Robert Downey Jr., who was going to end up playing Tony Stark. This was the perfect time for him because he had finally started his big comeback sober, and now Robert Downey Jr. is a superstar. Him playing Iron Man was such a great choice. He was fun, he was charismatic, he was serious. We also had a great cast including Jon Favreau, Gwyneth Paltrow, and at this time the villain, who was played by one of my favorite actors of all time, Jeff Bridges. Even though it did have some imperfections, it definitely was the start of something big, and we all knew that when those credits rolled and we got that end credits scene with Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, and so began something that had never been done before, and the rest is history in the world of film. Number 5 is The Incredible Hulk, another character that had sort of gone to the wayside because people just didn't know how to make a movie out of this character. And the fact that we were getting a reboot, to a certain degree, so soon after a horribly failed 2003 live-action film. This one was directed by Louis Leterrier. It also included a great cast including Tim Roth, Edward Norton, Liv Tyler, and William Hurt, and we got a truly great film. And the funny part was, it didn't feel like a reboot. As a matter of fact, it felt like a follow-up to the first film, and at the same time, it made you forget about that. But they definitely did a better job with the story, they definitely changed the special effects, and even though this was made by Universal, we got a big surprise at the end of this film, and that was going back to Iron Man. The other funny thing that was so interesting about The Incredible Hulk was the fact that it actually came out in the same year as Iron Man. As a matter of fact, literally a month after Iron Man first came out. And when we saw that end scene with William Hurt and Robert Downey Jr., we actually realized, wait a minute, this is actually happening. We are actually going to be seeing more movies where all of these individual characters are going to come together and give us an Avengers movie. We couldn't believe it, and that is why The Incredible Hulk was such a pivotal film in the MCU, and also it is still one of my favorites. Granted, Edward Norton did not end up playing the Hulk, but then again, the Hulk was not the only character in this Marvel Cinematic Universe that went through an actor change. Number 4 is Black Panther, the one movie that revolutionized the MCU with the predominantly black cast and a great soundtrack to boot, amazing production value, great costumes, and even though I didn't care much for the fact that it got nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars, I still have a great deal of good things to say. One of the major reasons why I loved Black Panther so much was because I was just in a massive slump with these movies. We had just gotten average ones, and even some that I didn't like. So seeing Chadwick Boseman put the mask on again for Black Panther, because we did of course see his first appearance in Captain America Civil War, we were finally taken home to Wakanda, another great bunch of cast members including Letitia Wright, Lupita Nyong'o, and of course the great Michael B. Jordan. This movie was truly epic, and it was just a great breath of fresh air to finally see one of those truly great, dramatic superhero films. There also were a great deal of surprises with a whole bunch of other actors that I never would have anticipated. It was also great to see Andy Serkis come back as Ulysses Klaue, but we also got Daniel Kaluuya from Get Out, and we were also introduced to Winston Duke, who is now in Us. So such such a landmark film for popular culture, a landmark film for the MCU, but also a landmark film for the mainstream moviegoers who finally got a chance to see some of these truly great black actors who had basically been doing a lot of very artsy and dramatic and even Oscar-worthy films. To finally see them all in a superhero movie, this gave us the opportunity to see every single one of these actors do a lot of great mainstream projects in the future. Number 3 is Avengers Infinity War. It all led up to this moment, to see every single one of these heroes that we have been watching in theaters since 2008, whether they were in individual projects or gigantic crossovers. We finally see every single one of these heroes going up against the threat that has been lingering since 2012, and that, of course, was Thanos, played by Josh Brolin. All the characters, including some of the newer ones that we got, even though we didn't get all of them, but we're not so upset about that, because all of those that we didn't get in Infinity War are showing up in Endgame. You know, you've seen the trailer, but it was just as epic as we all thought, and I think we all were surprised by how that film ended, because they really kept that ending under wraps. And all I'm going to say, in case you have never seen an MCU film before, people left that theater in tears, because these things that we saw at the very end, we did not see coming, and it really gives us all the anticipation that we all have right now for Endgame. Everybody just goes berserk when a trailer pops up, so all I'm hoping for is that we truly get this book of MCU films closed with a proper ending. But number 2 on my list is the Avengers. Finally getting to see all of these heroes that we were first introduced to in the first couple of films coming together as a team to take down an alien invasion, which is something that in the MCU had not been seen by the average citizens of the world. So Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, Captain America, Black Widow, and Hawkeye all team up with the help of Nick Fury from S.H.I.E.L.D. to take down this alien invasion. And of course, it was also the very first time where we saw the true threat that was lingering in the background. We saw Thanos for the first time. He didn't say anything, but comic book fans of Marvel who saw his face, everybody went berserk because they saw Thanos. And of course, the big question was, where was this story going to go? And of course, after seeing such an amazing and beautifully executed film like The Avengers, we all were curious as to how this series of films was going to continue. Were we going to get great films, or were we going to just get bust after bust? We didn't know at the time. But look at where we are now, guys. I think the answer officially speaks for itself. And that brings us to the number 1 film in my world from the MCU, and that is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. If there was one thing that I could say that this movie did well, was it pushed the bar. It gave us one of the most darkest and deepest films, and the best part was it involved Captain America, the hero that I felt got spit on until Captain America: The First Avenger came out. Chris Evans comes back and gives us the performance of his life in the MCU in this specific movie. Scarlett Johansson returns as Black Widow. Samuel L. Jackson returns as Nick Fury. And we even get the legendary Robert Redford in this film, which was such an amazing thing. I never would have imagined to see such a prestigious actor like Robert Redford in an MCU film. But that just shows you that these films officially revolutionized the comic book film for the better. It's the reason why people now rush to the theaters when a comic book movie is out in theaters. It was such a powerful, deep, dramatic film, one that has so much rewatchability, and even when you watch it again, you are guessing, because it is just that suspenseful, that intriguing, and that powerful. I wish that we could see more films like this in the MCU, and I really think that Avengers Infinity War got close, but now I'm even more curious to see what's going to happen with Avengers Endgame, and of course, what will happen with the next book of MCU films in the near future. So that's it, everybody. Those are my top 10 MCU films from the first 10 years of the MCU's existence. I'm really excited to see Zach, Justin, and Ashlee's picks, because this, of course, is a blind box. I have no idea what their picks are, but please leave your comments in the box below, and I'd love to know some of your favorite MCU films. If you think that the ones that I have ranked are not great, and you think that there are better ones, I may disagree with you, but I'm very interested in having a good conversation. But in the meantime, I will see you in the next one. Hey, thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. If you're new here and want to see more of what my channel has to offer, please click on the link to my last video, or hit that subscribe button to be kept up to date with all of my uploads. Content of all sorts is posted here quite often, so trust me, you do not want to fall behind. I will see you in the comments, and actions speak louder than words.